Right then, welcome back everyone. Now, as I'm sure you've guessed from the title, today I'm talking all things Willy.
Hey yo!
Now before you all get too excited, I am of course referring to the beloved children's book character, Willy Wonka. And if you were thinking anything else, you need to have a long, hard look in the mirror.
Disgusting!
Willy Wonka first appeared in 1964 in Roald Dahl's famous novel, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Since then, there have been 3 film portrayals of him, with the most recent coming from Wonka, the new film starring the man of the moment, Timothée Chalamet. Seriously, can I just be this guy already? It actually pisses me off how cool he is. And so in this video, I'm going to be dissecting these 3 films and giving you their unequivocal, undeniable ranking. And if you disagree with me,
I'll come out of my house and I'll break your fucking legs, you little prick!
now to try and give this video at least some sense of professionalism, I've come up with a set of ingenious categories to help rank each film. I'll be giving each film a score out of 5 for the following: their portrayal of Willy Wonka, the cinematography / set and costume design / the look of the film, and their enjoyability-ness. Now before I begin, I need to make a quick disclaimer, because I can already hear Stephen over there furiously typing his comment. I am aware there's over 50 years between the first and last film's release dates, and that there have been significant improvements in cameras, construction, special effects, etc. in the meantime. Shut up, okay? This will all be factored in, don't worry, Stephen, you can calm down. And so, without further ado, let's Oompa Loompa Dibbity do it. Of course we have to start here, with the original Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, released in 1971 and starring the legendary Gene Wilder. Now some people might argue that this video is pointless, and that clearly this is the best film on the list. And there may be some weight to that argument, but luckily for you, I am not some people. That being said, I do absolutely adore this film. I've watched it countless times and I still love it. I distinctly remember 2 scenes from watching it as a child. Being in absolute awe when they open the doors to the imagination room for the first time, and being absolutely terrified of Slugworth. And even watching it as an adult, once you get over the slightly concerning fact that this man has kidnapped an entire race of orange dwarves to work in his factory as basically slaves, it's honestly a timeless classic. Now, moving on to the categories. As we all know, Willy Wonka is a reclusive genius who spends all day inside making chocolate. So of course, he's not going to be your average bloke. But exactly how weird they want to make him comes down to the actor. And in this film, Gene Wilder portrays Willy Wonka as just slightly unhinged. At the beginning of the film, he comes across as just a bit of a lunatic, he doesn't really know what's going on, but we all know that by the end of the film, this was just a test to see which child was worthy of taking over his factory. There's also a lot of anger in Wilder's portrayal of the character, and also a touch of evil sometimes. I honestly can't fault the performance, to be fair, from his iconic first appearance when he limps out the door, to how he just nonchalantly describes what's going to happen to each child.
Dive in, save him!
Oh, it's too late.
Too late!
He's had it now, the suction's got him.
And who can forget the chocolate river scene? Tell you what, that shit was weird. Like really weird for no reason. I definitely had nightmares about that as a kid. I'm going to give this category a 4.5 out of 5. As for the look of the film, with the level of special effects available at the time, I think what they achieved here was remarkable. The incredible design and colours of the imagination room and all the candy, especially the everlasting gobstopper. I wanted to suck on that ball so bad.
What did he say?
The wire work when Charlie and Grandpa Joe drink the fizzy lifting drinks, the brilliant costumes and look of the iconic Oompa Loompas. In my opinion, little men with orange faces, green hair and white dungarees is the only acceptable Oompa Loompa fit. And finally, the scene where the Wonkamobile goes through the dry cleaner and they all come out sparkling clean. 6-year-old me was absolutely shook. I could not believe my eyes. Now I do have to minus at least 1 point just for old film jank. My mind goes to the Mike TV scene where they show the millions of particles in the air. In my opinion, this just looked bad, and I think they would have been better off just saying there were particles there but not actually showing anything. I know the film's 50 plus years old, but I have to be fair, and so I'm going to give this category a 4 out of 5. And finally, for enjoyment, as I've already said, I love this film so much. It's charming, it's visually stunning, it's heartwarming, the songs are so bloody catchy. I was saying Oompa Loompa Dibbity Doo for the next 2 weeks after rewatching it. I'd also forgotten just how funny it was. The scenes at the beginning when the world's going mad over buying Wonka bars, especially the one where the lady's husband has been kidnapped, are actually hilarious. I have to give it 5 out of 5. Let's move on to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the remake of the original film released in 2005. This film was directed by Tim Burton, so of course stars Johnny Depp and Helena Bonham Carter. Now this film sort of feels like the odd one out on this list. It's like that one cousin who always gets way too drunk at family gatherings that no one really wants to acknowledge. I think the reason a lot of people feel like this is because Burton deviated pretty heavily from the source material in places and added in extra scenes that weren't in the book. The most notable example of this is the scene where the Oompa Loompas came right up to the camera and told you they'd burn down your house if you don't like this video right now. Now I for one found that a little bit off-putting when I first watched it, but the most notable example of this are the scenes with Wilbur Wonka, Willy's father, in the flashbacks to Willy's childhood were shown. Now what I'm about to say may shock you to your very core, so I would recommend being sat down for this. I actually really like these extra scenes in the film.
Boy, ain't no fucking way, boy.
I thought they added some necessary depth to Willy's character and also were just enjoyable to watch. And actually, aside from these scenes, this film was much more faithful to the novel than the original 1971 film. For example, the scene of the golden geese was changed to the nut sorting squirrels as it was in the novel. However, does the fact this film was more faithful make it a better film? I'm not so sure. But anyway, let's move on to the categories. Unlike Wilder's more subtle performance, Depp's portrayal of Wonka is much more over the top and almost psychotic. However, after reading the book, Depp is much closer to how I imagined Willy Wonka to be. If you'd been living inside a chocolate factory without human contact for however many years, I'd expect you to be a bit of a freak, I'm not gonna lie. Even his appearance made sense with that shocking haircut, weird purple rubber gloves, and almost completely white complexion. Like if you saw a picture of him out of context, I think most people would agree his brain was no bueno. The fact we also got to see Willy's childhood helps us understand why he is like he is, and also his disdain for children. I also found him to be actually very funny, from his Vietnam flashbacks every time someone says parent.
Dad? Papa?
To his completely out-of-pocket comments to the other children on the tour.
I always thought a verruca was a type of wart you got on the bottom of your foot.
To just simple things like walking into the door of the glass elevator. I'm really trying my hardest here to be objective and ignore the nostalgia bias, and so I'm going to give this category a 5 out of 5. Moving on to the look of the film, to state the obvious, this film looks significantly better than its predecessor. The CGI has of course taken a huge step up and everything just looks far more polished and refined. However, I don't know why, but I find myself preferring the style of the previous film. There's just something about using practical effects rather than visual effects that gives the film a warmer feel to it. One particular thing that bugged me about this film was how big are they trying to say this factory is. I get that it's a fantasy story and that it doesn't have to make sense, but they did take the piss a little bit, come on. We've got an entire chocolate ocean in there, a literal mountain in just one room, a seemingly never-ending underground cavern that probably reaches the Earth's core. I know, I hate fun and love crushing children's dreams, but for me, this was just a bit too unbelievable, I'm sorry. I also didn't like the look of the Oompa Loompas, to be honest. They just looked way too tiny, and in my opinion, you just can't beat the original design. I'm going to give this category a 2.5 out of 5. And finally, for the last category, I do really like this film. I think it's often overlooked, which is such a shame in my opinion. It really is a very enjoyable watch, but as I said, there were a few things with regards to the looks of the film that just put me off slightly, so I'm going to go with 4 out of 5. And finally, we're on to Wonka, the latest installment in the Wonkaverse. Now, going into this film, I think we all had some slight concerns over the casting of Timothée Chalamet as Willy Wonka. Don't get me wrong, he's an incredibly talented actor and has starred in some of my favourite films, but this role is A, completely different to anything he's done before, and B, such a beloved character by so many people, I just wasn't sure if he could pull it off. Also, given the fact this film is a completely different story and doesn't follow the classic golden ticket plot, it was all seeming like a bit of a recipe for disaster. However, I am very pleased to report that I was completely wrong because the film is great. I really enjoyed it. The film tells the story of a young Willy trying to open his very first chocolate shop, but quickly discovers the industry is run by the chocolate cartel and they do everything in their power to stop Willy from realising his dream. I won't give any more away than that, but for those who are still on the fence about the story like I was, grow up and watch the film, I guarantee you'll enjoy it. Every character, main and side, in my opinion, were all brilliant and casted perfectly. It really did feel like they'd been ripped straight out of a Roald Dahl novel. The whole cast actually was stacked with big names. Olivia Colman, Matt Lucas, Rowan Atkinson, Keegan-Michael Key. The standout for me though was Hugh Grant as the Oompa Loompa. He was genuinely so funny and just injected a new element into the film right at the perfect time, just when the film was starting to lull a bit. Now, one thing to note is this film is an outright musical. I know the previous films had songs as well, but not nearly as many, nor were they a main focus of the film. Usually I would rather in my hands and clap than watch a musical, but I have to say I actually found myself really enjoying them. The songs were original and catchy and worked with the story perfectly, and the production levels were just off the charts. Right, that's enough of me yapping, let's get on to the categories. There really is a lot to be said for Timothy's performance in this film. He must have felt so much pressure stepping into this role, knowing the shoes he was trying to fill. But I think he rose to the task brilliantly. I just discovered that at the last stage of casting, it was actually between Timothée Chalamet and Tom Holland for the role, before of course Timothy was chosen. I mean, you really gotta feel for Tom Holland right now. He lost the role to the dude who's literally making out with his girlfriend in another huge franchise that he's also the lead character in. That must be tough. But anyways, back to the topic at hand. I thought Timothy got across the whimsical and magical parts of Willy Wonka brilliantly and really portrayed him as the daydreamer that he is. He also sounded really good while singing. I get the audio's mastered in a studio and whatnot, but it still sounded great. I did just feel that we were missing out on the sort of slightly unhinged, deranged side to his character that we've seen in previous films. To me, that's what makes Willy Wonka such an interesting character, but unfortunately here we just don't get that. And so I'm going to give this category a 3.5 out of 5. As for the look of the film, as I said before, the film was visually stunning. The production levels of every scene, especially the musical ones, was just phenomenal. Every character just slotted in perfectly to the world they'd created, which really made for an immersive experience. The levels of CGI we have available today are so exceptional, everywhere it was used looked immaculate. But it was in fact actually used pretty sparingly, to be fair, which for me is just another bonus. I have to go 5 out of 5 on this category. And finally, for the last category, this is without a doubt a film that everybody will enjoy. There's just so much to like about it. It's funny, it looks brilliant, it's got a great story, it's emotional, it's got callbacks to the previous film, it's got it all. I'm going to give this category a 4 out of 5. And there it is, the 100% correct ranking of the Willy Wonka films. Third, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory with a score of 11.5. Second, Wonka with 12.5. And first, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory with a dominant 13.5. And if anyone disagrees with that, comment down below and we'll arrange a scrap. And with that, we've reached the end of the video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to like and subscribe, and why not check out another video I made, where I discuss the new film starring Barry Keoghan and Jacob Elordi, Saltburn.